If you want some two-wheeled transportation that's under $2,000 and you don't want to pedal, yes, you could get an e-bike, but you could also consider a scooter. This one is the Hiboy Max Pro. Retail on these is $9.99, but if I look at their website right now, it's like a little over $700. The goal in this video is to find out, is it a good deal for that price? How well does it ride? And of course, how much power does it have? So let's start out with a good old-fashioned dyno run. Now I gotta remember where the power button is. Oh, just under the screen protector. This thing does have an app, which I just downloaded, have not used yet. Okay, I guess I will see what this does. Requires a little bit of a kickstart. Went right up to the advertised speed of 22 miles an hour. See what we got for power. Forgot to hit start. Kick off again. There we go. 781 watts, 21 pound-feet of torque. Who stole my Sharpie? So our scooter list is growing. And it looks like that's gonna put it right. I could go either way between the Richter S9 and this. The wattage is about the same. The torque's about the same. Virtually identical. These four are the scooters I've tested so far that all have a single rear hub motor. Everything up here is dual hub motors. We see a variety of tires on scooters. These ones are a little bit larger than most, which I think will be nice, should make for a good ride. They're 11 inches in diameter, and they are actually pneumatic. Sometimes we have airless tires or something on scooters like this. Definitely has a street tread to it. The braking system is drum on front and rear. I think that's the first time I've seen, or at least on a review scooter, I've seen drum brakes combined with a rear hub motor and then just a standard drum brake on the front wheel. The last scooter I tested with a drum brake, it honestly felt exactly the same as the mechanical disc brake that it had installed. So I will say these are probably gonna perform pretty well. Not quite as good as a hydraulic disc brake, but as good, maybe potentially better than a not well-adjusted mechanical disc brake. That's just based on a few that I've ridden that are set up this way. So I just downloaded the app. I'm getting it connected to see what sort of options I have here. Looks like we have a cruise control that can be enabled. I'm gonna leave that off. Kinda prefer to just use the throttle. I can turn the lights on. That's cool, I didn't see that at first. Look at those bright lights. Those LEDs along the side, that's nice. Cruise control, you can set which speed it gets enabled. So you could turn it up to the max speed limit. It's already cranked up all the way to 22. This is the one I wanted to change, 0 start. I prefer to be able to use the throttle and not have to kick off every time. That's about it. So not a lot of settings. You can change it between miles and kilometers an hour. It was already set to miles. I guess it's time to go ride it outside now, see how it performs on the hills. I've ridden a scooter with basically the same amount of power, so I got a pretty good feel for that. What I don't know is how's the suspension gonna handle? How's it going to handle in general? Is it a squirrely scooter, a stable scooter? You never know. Is this a brake light? Ah, so the light is on and it flashes when you pull the brake, and these side lights just stay on all the time if you turn that headlight on there. I really am digging those side LED lights. That looks nice. We got a bell. Let's turn the scooter, I mean. It's gonna be hard not to say bicycle in this video. Even though I've done a lot of scooters, I still mostly do bikes. It takes my brain to adjust a little bit. So I did get 22 miles an hour on the dyno. We'll see if I can actually do that on the road. The speedometer was accurate though. So if we actually get 22 on the screen, we're really going that fast. And then we'll feel out the suspension on this thing too. Looks pretty basic, 0 adjustment that I can see. Hopefully it's enough for cruising around on the city streets. So first thing I turned off was the, I can't remember what they called it, the start up mode. You don't have to kick off anymore. I turned that off and that works. So now I can just hit the throttle and go. So that's a plus. Let's see how it handles a little speed bump in the parking lot right here. Not bad. I forgot my little wind noise buffer. That should block the wind a little bit better. Interesting design. I don't even know how the rear suspension works. It has some, but barely. It's enough to take the edge off. And then of course in the front we've got a standard telescopic suspension fork. Like I said, no adjustment. Feels relatively firm. Definitely not gonna bottom it out. All right, so here's the hill just heading out of the parking lot, and it's going up that, but not at any terrible, great speed. It definitely struggled a little bit. I have some concern that if I go to a really steep hill, might not quite have the overall power or torque to make it, but I'm gonna find out. Pretty rare that a bike or a scooter can't make it up this hill if it's got, 1,000 watts, 30 pound-feet of torque. Yeah, it's gonna slow down, but it'll make it. When you get down to the lower 20-some pound-feet and 750 watts or less, then it's questionable. All right, so right now I'm doing 9 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour. Still going. 7, 6, it's really struggling. 5, 4, come on, 3. Okay, we got a serpentine here a little bit. I could literally kick off faster at this point. It's a little bit of a zigzag to make it up this hill. This last little section, let me see if it'll just make it up and just crawl over. Come on. Oh, I can hear a car behind me. Okay, so it slowed down to like 3 miles an hour, but it still went up and over. But I don't think it liked that very much. One, it's hard to go that slow. And two, I don't think the motor and the motor controller are gonna be very happy with that for prolonged periods. So technically it did make it. I didn't think it was going to at first. So if you got really steep hills, be aware you're gonna have to zigzag back up forth just a little bit. If you're going up the hills of San Francisco, I mean, if you live in an area like that, probably should just get yourself a scooter with 2 motors, double the torque. That's gonna do a better job of it. But it's nice to know that this one can do it on occasion. So this is a gradual uphill and it got right up to 20 miles an hour though. So just so you know, that hill was quite steep. Still going uphill, hovering between 19 to 20 miles an hour. So not quite at the max, but that's actually pretty impressive that I can get almost top speed, 90% of it, even uphill. That makes me think that, there we go, yeah. 22 miles an hour top speed is actually quite realistic. So it will go beyond 22 downhill. I just got it up to about 25. So it's not going to enable like a regen brake or anything. It's gonna slow you down. In fact, I got a slight downhill. Let's just see if it'll kind of coast. Man, you get a little bit of drag. It makes sense, it's a direct drive motor. So you gotta kind of keep on the throttle, at least a touch, just to keep it kind of flowing freely and nicely. And I'm also gonna say that 22 to 25 is probably fast enough on this. The deck space is decent. I can just about put my feet side by side width-wise. It's got enough length to it that it feels reasonably comfortable. But it is one of those scooters that feels a little squirrely. I was hoping it wouldn't because the 11-inch tires that's a pretty good diameter. But it must just be the geometry of the bars and the front fork that are on it. But as you get up to speed, it starts to feel a little squirrely. So I don't think I would want to go 30 miles an hour on this. So a great around town scooter, if around town for you means mild to medium hills, or you don't worry about going too fast up the hills. Obviously, rider weight is something to consider too. Bigger guys, you'll probably want to look for something with a bit more torque and oomph to it. If you're a bit lighter or a kid, this would be great. This is a scooter I would feel perfectly comfortable putting my kids on and letting them ride it around. It's not crazy powerful. It's not crazy fast on the top end. It feels light to ride, so it wouldn't be like it's this unwieldy thing for them to ride. All right, now we got a really steep downhill. This is gonna be good for testing out these drum brakes. Okay, so if you squeeze hard enough, you can lock the wheels up. So that's good, but it does take kind of a firm pull, if you know what I mean. You gotta put in a little effort. So it's not the light touch you can get with a hydraulic brake. It's understandable. I don't know if I mentioned the battery capacity of this thing yet. It's pretty decent. It's a 48 volt, 15 amp hour. I don't recall what they were advertising on their website, but that's good for like 20 miles or so. All right, here's the most rough, potholy street downtown. You know, despite being a very simple suspension setup, I can genuinely say I've felt worse. Stiffer, more uncomfortable suspension than what this has. I would take this scooter any day over walking around downtown. Go around the roundabout with all the cars. So this is the first product that I have personally dealt with from Hiboy. Quality-wise, I would say everything looks pretty good. Fit and finish is nice. The app worked perfectly fine, connected right away. It came with like an extra tube in the package. You know, there were some nice little touches. I think $9.99, based on some of the other scooters I've seen, is a little high. I don't know if I could see paying that for it. But maybe that's just a price they put on their website and they always discount it to $7 something like they are right now. Which I think now, okay, that's a fair price. I actually asked Blake, who didn't have any information on this. Man, everybody's so angry. I actually asked Blake in the shop. I told him all the specs of it and said, hey, what would you guess the price of this is? And he nailed it. He said $9.99. So maybe my opinion's a little bit off. But I did feel like the $700 to $800 price range was where I was thinking it would be, and that would be a very fair, good price. But I always love a good deal, so maybe I'm biased. So here's a close-up of the display here. Very basic. We just have our miles per hour indicator, whether or not the light is on. Battery bars right here. You can see I took a couple of bars off, riding it up and down the hills just now. Don't even have an odometer. Maybe there's one in the app, but I didn't see that. Like I said, thumb throttle, which was nice and smooth. Kind of has a slow, soft start to it. I am digging the side lights though. I think those are awesome for visibility. The deck was nice and grippy. The rubber goes all the way back even to this rear piece here. This is that weird rear suspension setup that I'm not entirely sure how it works, but it does move a little bit. Tiny little telescopic fork on the front there, which rode better than I expected. So it's very comfortable on the street, but it's very clean looking. I mean, they run the cables inside of the tube here. So overall, I would say not a bad little setup. Definitely something you could put kids or a teenager on, they'd be very comfortable with, or somebody who is new to scooters. I don't really have any major complaints for it. If there's one thing I could change, I would say for this price range, or say the retail price of $9.99, I'd love to see some hydraulic brake setups instead of the drum brakes at that price. So thank you to Hiboy for sending me the Max Pro. I did enjoy riding it. I had some fun with it. And if you guys agree with everything I've said and you think that this is the scooter for you, or maybe it's gonna be your first scooter and you should try one of these out, of course, there will be a link in the description of this video.